everybody, welcome to our live crochet event. I'm Brenda KB Anderson, and today I'm so excited I get to show you guys how to make the Irishish lace cowl. This is what it looks like. Lots of meshy, let me show you the right side of it. Lots of meshy lace, and then at the bottom there's some little floral and leafy motifs. So you're going to want to go to you can do this now or you can do it after the event, whenever you like. You're just going to go ahead and download the free pattern. It's in the description or it's also in the chat. So you can have free access to that, and we're going to be going through the pattern from basically the beginning to the end. I'll teach you all the steps you need to know. So let's talk about your materials first. You're going to need about 270 yards of a DK or sport weight yarn. And I chose for this the dark green cowl, this was a really nice hand-dyed yarn, and it's a wool yarn, and it's a nice round fiber to it. You don't want to choose something that's really super textured or fluffy, because then some of your stitches will kind of get lost in that. So find something that's a little bit more round. This version that I'm going to be doing my demo with today, this is, I think it's 50% wool, 50% yarn, or something close to that. It's like a mixture of the two, wool and, did I say wool and cotton is what I meant to say. Wool and cotton. So that's what the one I'm demoing today is. But all the information, the specific yarns I use and all that stuff is in your pattern, so you can take a look at that. And you'll just need some stitch markers, some pins. I like to use quilter's pins with the big heads on them so you can see them a little better. And a yarn needle. Yeah, and that's it. Not a lot, maybe a stitch marker. Stitch marker would be good too, but not a lot of materials. So we're gonna get started. Well, first let me talk about this weird name, right? It's called the Irishish lace cowl, and maybe some of you are thinking, did she have like a little cutting and pasting problem there, or what's going on with the Irishish? The reason that I named it that is because I really wanted to do something inspired by Irish crochet. This is not like the traditional Irish crochet that maybe you have seen. If you haven't seen, I'll explain in just a minute. It's a little bit different, but it is inspired by that. It does have a similar look to it. And it starts out with little motifs, and then there's a meshy lace pattern. So if you've never heard of Irish crochet, you need to have a little Google fest later, because it is like eye candy. It's so beautiful. And you can learn a little bit about the history of Irish crochet. I'll give you like the 2-second version. In the mid-1800s, there was the Great Famine in Ireland. That's the potato blight, and or the potato famine. And so people were starving and they needed a new source of income. So there were some wealthy women who came in, and to help the families in Ireland, they would teach the women and girls how to make this new style of crochet that mimics Venetian needlepoint lace, which is that was a little more time consuming, but they figured out a way to make something that looks really, really close to it, but with crochet instead. So they taught these women and girls how to make it, and they would go home and work on these pieces and then bring them back to the school, and people there would assemble the lace together. The way that traditional Irish lace was made, you would have all these motifs, like similar to these. Of course, they would be in white. And they would put all the motifs upside down in like a pattern that they already have laid out for the size and the shape of whatever it is they're making. They put them upside down, and then they use another strand of a thread. Everything was made in a very thin thread. This is much, much, much thicker than it would be. And then they would connect all these pieces together as they made the mesh from the back side, which is amazing. So you're making the lace piece at the same time you're connecting all these pieces together. So that is more the traditional style, but I felt like that was a little ambitious for a 1-hour event. So I made some little shortcuts, but we're still going to be making something that has like that feeling and has a similar look to it. It's made with a thicker yarn, and you can make it in any color you like. Be your own designer here. Choose what you like. So we'll get started on working on the cowl part, which is the meshy part. So you're going to begin. And actually, okay, 2 things. First, I want to mention, if you downloaded the pattern yesterday or before that, then you're going to want to make some changes in your pattern or just download the new version of it, because I found some mistakes. They were my mistakes, but I found some mistakes yesterday as I was looking through. So they have since updated the pattern, but I'm just going to tell you what they were in case you have the older version from before. So if you go down on page number 4, you would go to rows 4 through 25 under Begin Working in Rows. This is towards the bottom of the page. You're going to change the number 25 to a 24. Okay, so it's just 4 through 24. And then we make a new row 25, and row 25 should say chain 5, turn, single crochet, and next chain 5 loop. Okay, so that it's very close to what was there before, but I'm trying to be a little bit more distinct about where your stitches go and when to stop. This will become more clear later. You don't have to worry if none of that makes any sense to you. It's fine. But I just wanted to point out that there was a mistake in the pattern. So if you downloaded it before today, then just make sure you're checking that to make sure that that gets changed. And then there was one more mistake. This one's a little easier to fix. We're going to go to page 6, and we're looking at large flower, make 1. On round number 2, it says chain 1 does not count as a stitch, single crochet and same stitches joined, chain 3, skip 3 single crochet, and following single crochet. It should say 4 times, not 5 times right here. So change that to a 4, and then right after times, you should chain 3, and then the rest of it is correct. Okay, so and if you didn't catch all that, you can go back and watch it later, or just download the newer version of the pattern and it should be fixed already. All right, so when we start working on this, I'm going to be showing you kind of the condensed version, because I don't have time to make an entire cowl in this hour. And I'm going to be showing you, we're going to start out with the instructions for the gauge swatch. So because the gauge swatch is made in the round, it can be a little bit hard for people to figure out, like, how do I make a gauge swatch in the round? What am I doing? So I wrote out all the directions in the pattern for making the gauge swatch in the round, and I'm going to be doing them here. So we're going to start out with, and the gauge swatch is going to be like a mini version of the cowl. Okay, so I'll be showing you all the techniques that you need to know. And I should also mention that since this is a live event, if you guys have any questions or you want to make any comments or anything like that, I'd be happy to hear from you. Just put them in the chat box and I'll be checking regularly. And I want to say hi to Allison, who just learned to crochet with one of my last lives. That's so awesome, Allison. I'm excited that you're here and excited you're learning crochet. And Karen or Karen, I'm not sure. I'm sorry if I butchered your name. She's just saying hi, so hi, Karen or Karen. And and Dawn, thank you for the compliment on my design. I'm very excited to teach it. All right. So we're going to start with a chain of 41 stitches. And I'm using an E-hook. Did I even mention that we needed a hook? I'm pretty sure that you guys already knew that since you're good crocheters. Yeah, we need a hook. So it's size E, 3.5 millimeters for me, but you might crochet differently than me. And so whatever size hook you need to use in order to get your gauge swatch to be the same size as my gauge swatch, that's the hook you're gonna need. So you make a gauge swatch and then you're gonna measure it and compare it to my measurements. And then you'll go up a hook size if it's too small. And if your gauge swatch turned out too big, you would go down a hook size. All right, so we're chaining 41 stitches here. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14, 15, 16, 17, 18, 19, 20, 21, 22, 23, 24, 25, 26, 27, 28, 29, 30, 31, 32, 33, 34, 35, 36, 37, 38, 39, 40, and 41. That last one is going to be our turning chain. And you might be thinking, turning chain? What are you talking about? I thought we were going to work this in the round. Well, I like to start out this cowl by working in the bottom of my chain. And in order to do that, I just find it easier to make one row first, and then I join and start working in the round. And the reason that I like to work into the bottom of my chain is, firstly, it's easier for me to get my hook into the bottom of the chain. And secondly, it makes a really nice edge it looks just like the other side of your crochet. It has a nice, tidy, see all those little V's? That's the top of your chain, but I worked into the bottom, so it gives it a nice little bit thicker. It usually looks a little more uniform. I just like how it looks better. So to work into the bottom of your chain, you're going to turn your chain over so that the V's are down on the table, and then you'll see all these little dashes. Those are that's the bottom bump of each chain. So you're just going to work underneath those. So we're going to skip the first bump, and we're going to work into the second bump, and we're going to do single crochets all the way all the way across. So you insert your hook, yarn over, pull up a loop, yarn over, pull through 2. That's one single crochet. We're going to continue that. Insert your hook, yarn over, pull up a loop, yarn over, pull through 2. Insert your hook, yarn over, pull up a loop, yarn over, pull through 2. So that's what they look like, just basic single crochet, and we're going to single crochet all the way across our chain. So like I said before, you are going to be doing a bigger version of this because you're making the actual cowl, and I'm just making like a mini cowl to show you guys what it will look like and how to do all the different techniques. So you chain a lot more. I don't remember what it is, but it's in your pattern. All the directions are in your pattern. So your chain is going to be much longer, and your first row of single crochets is going to be much longer. And so you might be thinking, okay, that's a lot of chains. How can I keep track of all those chains? So my advice is to, after you do 20 chains, put a stitch marker in. Do 20 chains, put a stitch marker in. That way, inevitably, when you lose count, you can quickly count how many chains you've already done. My other tip is if you're like, ooh, I'm at 121 and we need 122. I mean, those aren't the numbers, so don't get confused. But, and so you add one more chain, and then you're like, did I add enough chains? Oh, no, I can't remember. So just add like a few more chains. If you're not sure, add extra. And you can always unravel those chains when you get to the end. So just count them on the way back when you do your single crochets. Make sure you have the right amount of stitches. That way you get 2 chances to count. First on your chains, and then on your single crochets, and then you should know if you have the right amount of stitches. And you can always unravel those extra stitches if you did too many chains. All right, so this is what it looks like with the one row of single crochet stitches. And then we're going to join to work in the round. So you just want to be careful you're not twisting this first row. You're going to butt up the ends like that. I'm just holding it with my thumb, and then we are going to make a slip stitch into that single crochet right there. That's the first single crochet we made. Okay? So just yarn over, pull through, pull through. We've done our slip stitch. And you can see there's a little gap here. Don't worry about the gap. That's okay. You can stitch that gap closed when you weave in this end later. All right, so then we're going to begin the first round of the mesh stitch. So you'll yarn over and pull through just to make a chain. That's like a beginning chain. And now we're going to work into that same stitch where we did our join. So we're just going to do a single crochet there, insert hook, yarn over, pull up a loop, yarn over, pull through 2. And now we're going to chain 5. So 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. And then we skip 3 stitches. 1, 2, 3. And then we're going to work a single crochet into the next stitch. Just like that. Now we're going to continue all the way around doing the same thing. Chain 5, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Skip 3 stitches, 1, 2, 3. Single crochet into the next stitch. And just continue. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Skip 3. Single crochet into the next stitch. 2, 3, 4, 5. 2, 3. So this one, this row is probably the trickiest row in the cowl because you have to be counting and paying attention to where you're at. After this, it gets a little bit easier, and when you're working on the cowl, it can be pretty mindless. It's a good TV watching project for this part of it, at least. You have to pay a little bit more attention when you're doing the motifs, but we'll get to that. 1, 2, 3. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. 1, 2, 3. We're almost there. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. 1, 2, 3. Okay, so on this very last one, when you get to the end in your cowl, normally you would chain 5 and then like do a slip stitch, but we want to do, instead of that, to make the last loop, we're going to do 2 chains, 1, 2, and then we're going to make a treble crochet. So into this single crochet stitch. So we're going to yarn over twice, 1, 2, then we're going to insert our hook into that first single crochet we made, insert, yarn over, pull up a loop, yarn over, pull through 2, yarn over, pull through 2, yarn over, pull through 2. That is a treble stitch. So see how we made a chain that looks very similar to this chain, but we ended in the middle of the chain. That's because we did the two chains here, and then we reached over here and made that treble stitch and ended in the middle. And that's going to help us keep going around and around and around on our lace, around on the mesh, I should say. So then we're going to put a stitch marker in that last treble we made, because sometimes it's hard to see. And we're going to continue around and around and around. So we do a chain 5, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. And now we just go into this chain space here and make a single crochet like that. So we chain 5, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. And you just insert your hook underneath that chain, yarn over, pull up a loop, yarn over, pull through 2. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Insert your hook. And when you're doing that, you might think it doesn't matter where you put that single crochet because it can slide around. Well, it doesn't really like to slide because of all the little bumps on the bottom of your stitch, bottom of your chain. So aim for the middle. You know, put your hook in there, and as you're pulling up your loop, that's when you can adjust and make sure it's pulling up on the middle of the loop, and then it'll kind of stay there to finish your single crochet. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Insert, pull up a loop, pull through 2. And as you're working this stitch, it looks like, you know, it's not a very open, the loops aren't looking like they're very open, but that happens with the blocking later. So don't be alarmed if this looks like your cowl kind of is squished up like this a little bit. It just needs to be blocked, and then you can open up those little windows later on. So this is the same as the previous row in that on the last, there's the last chain 5 loop. We're going to work our single crochet there, and then see how there's our stitch marker right there in the middle of that loop. We're going to do 2 chains just like before, 1, 2, and then we're going to do a treble, yarn over twice, and we're doing a treble right on top of that treble right there. So I didn't say this in the pattern, but I'm just going to mention this now. In case your trebles are extra long, as you're working along, if it starts to look like those trebles are just too long and it's not like camouflaged in with the rest of your mesh, you can do a double crochet there instead. And actually for me, I think it would be the perfect height if it was between a treble and a double. So if I did a double and then a treble and then a double and a treble as I went around and around, that would probably be perfect, but that seemed kind of high maintenance to me. So I just put treble in the pattern, and that's what I did in these pieces, and I think it looks fine. I will show you what mine looks like. You can barely see it. Let's see if I can find it. Oh, here it is. So here's that line of trebles right here. You can barely see that it's different, but you know, maybe if I pointed it out, you can kind of tell. If I had done a treble, double, treble, double, treble, double all the way up, it might be a little less noticeable. Or maybe it's just a little more noticeable because the treble is a little thicker than a chain. But anyway, that's something that you can play with if you feel like it, and if that's just too high maintenance for you, just do a treble. It's fine. All right, so you're going to continue working around your cowl, around and around and around and around. I think it's 29 rows or something. And then, let's see, your piece will look, actually, if you were doing your gauge swatch first, this is what your gauge swatch would look like. And then you'd measure it here, measure it there, and just make sure that it's similar to mine so that you know that it's going to be about the right size. So this is a few more rows into it, right? I think 12 rounds or something like that. And then imagine this is your cowl. We're going, on the next round, we're going to work a couple where we're not chaining 5, we're only chaining 3. And the reason is that's going to be the part of your cowl that's back here at the neck, right here. And I didn't want those, when you make your chain 5, it arches up and back down. It makes these arches, and I wanted them to go straight across at this point. This is the back of your neck here. So that's why you only chain 3 for a couple of them. This is all in your pattern, so you could just reference that. But I'm going to show you how that works. And then we're going to start working back and forth in turned rows, and I'll show you how that works in this pattern. So we're going to chain 3, 1, 2, 3, and then we make a single crochet right here, just like we were before. The only difference is we're just chaining 3 instead of 5. 1, 2, 3, 1, 2, 3. Okay, and it'll be a specified a number. I think there's 4 of these. I can't remember on the actual cowl, but just read your pattern and you'll know. So you do that for a couple of them, and then you go back into the regular mesh pattern where you chain 5, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, single crochet in the next chain loop, chain 5, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, and a single crochet in the next chain loop. Let's see, Dara is asking if you could use a sport cotton to wear in the summer. Yeah, I think so. I think that would be lovely. It might have a little bit less drape perhaps, but being a sport, that should be thin enough, and it should work out just fine. I would just do a swatch just to make sure you like how it looks. Let's see, I think I only did 4 chains there. I'm gonna add one more chain. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. There. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. There's our last chain 5. I should have had a stitch marker in that treble right there. Okay, so then we do chain 2, 1, 2, and then do a treble in the treble. Okay, that's the top of the treble. 1, 2, 3. And then we're going to start working back and forth in turned rows. Okay, so we chain 5, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Turn our work, so now we're going to be looking at the wrong side of it. I know this is still showing you the right side of this, but we're looking at the wrong side in here as we work. So we've chained 5, and then we work into that next. We're just doing exactly the same stitch pattern. We just chain 5 and single crochet into the next chain loop. Chain 5, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, into the next chain loop. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, into the next chain loop. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, chain loop. We're doing single crochet right there. A couple more. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, single crochet. I think this is the last one. Yeah. 1, 2. Okay, so actually this is the last chain 5, okay, that we made, and we're going to do a treble crochet into that chain. So we do our chain 2, yarn over twice, treble crochet, 1, 2, 3, okay? And then we chain 5, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, and then we're gonna turn our work. So basically, every time you're at the beginning of a turned row, you're gonna chain 5, and then you do a single crochet in the next chain space. Every time, and then you continue that across your row, and then every time you get to the end, you do a chain 2 and a treble crochet to reach to that last chain 5 loop that you have. So we're gonna turn our work, and I think in the pattern I tell you to put a stitch marker in the chain 5 as you make it so that you don't miss these turns, because it can be a little confusing if you've never worked in this stitch pattern before. So we'll put a stitch marker on that so we see it next time. So then we get to the first chain 5 space, and we do a single crochet. Okay? So 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, single crochet. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, single crochet. And a couple more. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, single crochet. And there's our last, that is our last chain 5 right there. So we do 2 trebles, or 2 chains, 1, 2, and then a treble crochet into that chain 5. 1, 2, 3. So you can see what's starting to happen here. Here, I'll fold it sideways so this might make a little more sense. So this is where we were going around and around and around. And now we're going back and forth in these turned rows. And every row you're going to lose 1 chain because of how we're doing this. We're making it smaller and smaller. So it's going to become the point of this cowl. So if I fold this, you'll see. So this was all the parts where we're going in around. And then this is back and forth and back and forth and back and forth. And it makes the point. So you just continue that until you are on the very last row. So this... And you'll know you're on the last row because there's only 1 more chain loop left to make. So you'll be on a wrong side row, and you've just ended up with 2 chain 5 spaces. So this chain 2 plus a treble, that counts as a chain 5 space. So you've got two loops left. So then you chain 5 and turn. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Turn your work, and then you're just going to do a single crochet in that chain 5 space right here. Like that. So that makes the point of your cowl. And it looks a little wobbly, but that's because it hasn't been blocked yet. And also there's a round of single crochets that will help kind of firm up the edge of that. So after you've joined that part, you just continue working around, doing a little bit of an edging. Let's see. If you want a smaller neck opening, this is Annie asking, if you want a smaller neck opening, do you have a recommended starting chain length? I think you'd have to remove, let me think about that for a second. I think you'd have to remove stitches in groups of 8 because of the stitch pattern. You want to have 2 fewer loops because otherwise you'll end up on the wrong side of the cowl when you're doing this point. So you could remove 8 stitches from your chain length if you wanted a smaller cowl. You could also go down a hook size if that would make things easier. But if you want to have the same kind of drape, then I would say just remove 8 stitches. That should be enough because, I guess I don't know how much smaller you want to make it. If you want to make it for a small child or something, maybe you want to remove 16 stitches. So just subtract that from whatever the beginning chain length is. All right. Okay, so now we're going to work single crochet stitches in an edging all the way around the bottom of the cowl. So there are 3, actually let me pull out the stitch diagram. I made diagrams for you guys because I am a visual person and it helps me teach, but it also, it helps me understand where I'm at, and I know that I'm probably not the only one who feels that way. Let's see. So here is, actually I'm just going to pull this off of here. Here is the diagram of what's going on here at the point. So you can see we did that last chain loop, we did our single crochet into that chain 5 loop there, and now we're going to start doing this edging. So these red stitches, these are all representing single crochet stitches that go around the cowl. So we're going to do 3 single crochets into this loop here, and then 3 single crochets into this treble here, like into that space. 3 single crochets here. We just keep doing 3 all the way until we get to the center back neck, and I'll show you that in just a minute. So we'll do 3 single crochets, 1, 2, 3, and then into the next one, 3, 1, 2, 3, and this is just to kind of give it a nice firmer edge. It just helps it look a little tidier. I thought that it looked a little bit more finishing with this little edging. I didn't want it to be anything too crazy because I wanted most of the eye candy to come from the little motifs that we're adding onto this cowl, so I didn't want to detract from that at all. But I just wanted to make it a little bit more finished looking. So 1, 2, 3. We're still just doing 3 in every chain space until we get around to the back neck. So on my little swatch that starts here, that's where those 3 chains were instead of the 5 chains. And then we're going to do 4 single crochets into those. This is all in your pattern. I know it's not shown here once you get around to the back neck, because this is just a little reduced sample so you can see how that works. But it's in your pattern so you can read, and you'll know when you get to that point. It tells you how many chain loops to do 3 single crochets in, and then how many to do 4 in. So I'm doing 4 single crochets across the back neck into those chain 3 spaces. 2, 3, 4. And then once we have done all of those, we're going to go back to the 3 single crochets. 1, 2, 3, and we're going to work our way up to the tip of that of our cowl once again. One, 2, 3. One, 2, 3. Just a couple more here. 1, 2, 3, and 1, 2, 3. And now we have ended at right here. We've done those 3 right here. And then we're going to do 6 into that chain loop, and then we're going to slip stitch right here and fasten off. So we'll do 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, and then we do a slip stitch into the very first single crochet that we did right there, and then we're going to cut our yarn and fasten off. Oops. Just like that. Pull that nice and tight. And then when you block this, that blocking is just, you can steam it with an iron. That means you're hovering it above your work. You're not actually touching it. You can go as close as like an inch or so, just depending. You don't want to melt anything, but you can do that with an iron with lots of steam, or you can wet block it, which is a great way to block wool things, or this cotton and wool blend will block nicely with wet blocking too. So that just means you get it all wet, damp, and then kind of squeeze out the excess moisture, and then you let it dry in the shape that you want it to be. So you can kind of use pins to stretch it out a little bit, or you could just kind of do it with your hands if you're happy with that, but that'll give it a nice crisper kind of shape, nice look. So you're going to want to block your cowl before you add all of your pieces onto it. So we have gone through how to make this part of the cowl, and now we get to talk about the flowers and the leaves, which is, in my mind, the extra fun part. All right, so I'm going to get out my little diagrams here because these will help me. And all there's written instructions that correspond with all of this. So that is, if you're not a diagram person, that is fine. You can take a look at those instructions instead and just ignore my diagrams. So we're going to start by making the flower. I'll teach you how to do the large flower, and then which looks like this. Let me pull this off of here, which looks like that. It's got 2 layers of petals, and once you finish the large flower, you've actually secretly finished the small flower too, because the small flower is just this part of the large flower. So you'll know how to do both. All right, so we're going to start by chaining four stitches. And then we're going to slip stitch into the 4th chain from the hook. So you'll do your slip knot, and then we'll chain 4. 1, 2, 3, 4. And then we're going to slip stitch into that first chain. It doesn't matter exactly where you put it. You can put it underneath the V. You can put it here. It really doesn't matter. It's going to get completely covered up. So just make a slip stitch into that first chain, just like that. And then we are going to do a chain 1, like a beginning chain right here, and then we're going to work single crochets all the way around. We're going to do 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, and then let's see, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. Yeah, 10 single crochets into that center. So we do a chain 1, and then we do 10 single crochets. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. All right, and then when we've done our 10 stitches, we're going to do a slip stitch into the first single crochet. So we're going to count backwards. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. And the reason I like to count backwards on this first, when you do a first round of single crochet, is sometimes it's really hard to tell the difference between your chain 1, your beginning chain, and your single crochet. It's really hard to, like even me, I've done this so many times, it's hard for me to tell. So I like to count backwards to make sure that I have it right. All right, so we'll do a slip stitch there. And then we're going to do the next round. So the next round, we do a chain 1, and we're going to do a single crochet into the very same single crochet that we did our slip stitch in. Single crochet. And then we're going to chain 3. 1, 2, 3. And then we skip a stitch. Skip that single crochet and do a single crochet into the next stitch. So we're basically making these little holes all the way around it, in which we're going to make the petals in on the next round. So 1, 2, 3, skip a single crochet into the next single crochet. 1, 2, 3, skip a single crochet into the next one. 1, 2, 3, skip a single crochet, and there's the next single crochet. And then 1, 2, 3. This was one of the rounds that was a little bit incorrect. I had you making another single crochet at the end of the round, and we don't want to do that. So this has already been corrected on your pattern. We already talked about this earlier. I'm just letting you know in case you were wondering where the problem actually was. So now we're going to do a slip stitch into that first single crochet that we made to join it. And you can see when I pull it apart a little bit, there's 5 little windows here. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. There should be 5 chain 3 spaces, and that's where we're going to put the petals. All right, so we're going to do a slip stitch into that first chain 3 space, slip stitch, and then a chain 1, and then a half double crochet, which is a yarn over, insert, yarn over, pull up a loop, yarn over, pull through 3. Okay, that's a half double crochet. Now we're going to do 3 double crochets. So yarn over, insert, yarn over, pull up a loop, yarn over, pull through 2, and yarn over, pull through 2. So we're doing 3 double crochets. We're going to do 2 more. Yarn over, insert, yarn over, pull up a loop, yarn over, pull through 2, yarn over, pull through 2. Yarn over, insert, yarn over, pull up a loop, yarn over, pull through 2, yarn over, pull through 2. Then we're going to do a half double crochet again. So that was yarn over, insert, yarn over, pull up a loop, yarn over, pull through 3. Then a chain, then a slip stitch. And we've just made our first little petal there. Now we're going to continue that same process all the way around. So it looks like this: slip stitch, chain, half double crochet, double crochet, double crochet, double crochet, half double, chain, and slip stitch. All right, we've done 2 of those. Now we're going to do 3 more. Slip, chain, half double, 3 doubles. 1, 2, 3, half double, chain, slip. Okay, repeat it again. Slip, chain, half double, 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 half double, chain, slip. One more time. Slip, chain, half double, 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 half double, chain, and slip stitch. All right, so then after that, we're going to make this next set of chains around, and these are called back post single crochets in between. That's what hooks it into this flower. So we actually start, you can see in my little chart, we're going from this last slip stitch here that we made. We're just going to start chaining right here. We don't do the single crochet back post single crochet until we get to the end here. So we're just going to start chaining 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. So we chain 5, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, and then we're going to do a back post single crochet around this little area right here. See, in between our two petals, we can easily put our hook in there. That's where we're going. So we're going to start from the back and go around the front to the back again. So you can see it's almost like I'm sewing. Then you're going to yarn over and you're just going to drag that loop across the front to the back again. Now see how I have 2 loops? That probably looks familiar. It's like a single crochet stitch. Just yarn over and pull through 2. That's our single crochet around the back post. We're going to do that again. So chain 5, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Go from the back side across the front to the back, yarn over, pull that loop all the way through. You're ending up at the back again, and you're going to yarn over and pull through 2. That's your back post single crochet. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. We're just going to continue that all the way around. 5. It might be easier if you just go, flip your flower over and go like this too to do your back post. All right, and then 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, and we're going to end. See, now here is where, let me show you what this looks like. Here's where that first chain 5 is, right here. And we're going to do, and then this little post right here, that's where we're going to do our last back post single crochet to kind of connect that together into a circle. All right, single crochet. And now we are going to do the last round of the flower. So we do a slip stitch, half double, chain, half double, and then a bunch of double crochets. We're doing 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 instead of 3 this time. Half double, chain, slip. So this should look just like what we've already done, except that there's extra double crochets and we're working into a chain 5 loop instead of a chain 3. So here's my slip stitch into that chain loop. Chain 1, half double crochet, and then 5 double crochets. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, and then half double, chain loop, slip stitch, just like that. And we're gonna, I'll do one more of these and then I'll switch to the leaf so we don't run out of time. So slip stitch, chain, half double, 5 doubles, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, and a half double right here. Chain 1, slip stitch. So you're going to continue making those petals. See, if we pull that flower forward, you can see the ones behind. They're a little bit bigger. And you're going to continue doing that in the last 3 chain spaces. And then you just fasten off. And then it'll look like this piece here. Okay, so you can see there's 5 petals on top and 5 petals behind. So the next thing, and so, if we had stopped at round 3, we would have made the smaller flower. All right, so now we're going to be working on the small leaf. So there's a very slight difference between the 2 different leaves. There's only 1 large leaf, which is this, and then there's 3 of these smaller leaves. So I'm going to show you how to make this, but it's exactly the same process for this. So we're going to chain 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. It says, let's see, Sue says she likes to put a stitch marker in the V of the first stitch to make sure it's always easy to connect in any type of project. That is good advice. Stitch markers are so useful, and it's, you know, it's really easy to miss stuff, but you can't really miss your stitch marker, so it's always good to use those. All right, we're going to chain 6. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. That 6th chain is going to count as a turning, like a beginning turning chain, so that doesn't count as a stitch. And then we're going to work 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 single crochet stitches into the remaining chains, and then we're going to chain 3 more stitches at the end. So we're skipping that first chain because that's our beginning chain, and we're going to work 5 single crochets. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, and then we're going to do those 3 chains. 1, 2, 3. Then we turn our work. We skip the last chain that we made because that just counts as a turning chain. We're going to be working into the back loop, which is different than the bottom of our chain, okay? The back loop is when you look at those V's, like here. Normally you would put your hook under both of those 2 stitches, but we're just going to go under that back loop, just the back one. So we're skipping that first chain because that's our turning chain, and we're going to work single crochets through the back loop all the way across. Let's see here. So we're on the blue row here, so we're doing 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. 5 single crochets through the back loop, and then we're going to chain 1 and turn. That would be 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, and then we chain 1. See, we're going to stop before we get to the end. There's still 2 stitches there, but we're not going to stitch into those. We're just going to chain 1. That counts as a turning chain, and then we're going to turn. Then we're going to do a single crochet through the back loop all the way across. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, and then we're right here on row number 3. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, and then we chain 3. Okay, and that last chain is going to start count as our turning chain for the next row. So 1, 2, 3, turn, and now working into the back, we're going to skip that first turning chain, and we're going to do 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, and so there's still 2 stitches left. We're ignoring those 2 stitches, and we're going to chain 1 and turn. We're right here on row number 5, so we stitch 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, chain 3, and these are all worked into the back loop. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, chain 3, 1, 2, 3, and then we're going to turn and work 5 single crochet. Skip that first stitch, or first chain, that counts as a turning chain. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Then we chain 1. We've just done these 5. Then we chain 1, and we're going to single crochet through the back loop and the next 5. So 1, 2, 3. This is row 7. 4, 5. And then we chain 1, and then this is the row where it starts to get extra fun. So get excited. All right, so we're going to do 5 single crochets through the back loop. 1, 2, 3, nothing too crazy here. 4, 5. We're right here, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. And now you can see all these crazy arrows. So this stitch is going to be worked way down here into this stitch that we made. And this stitch is going to be worked into this stitch. Okay, so that's what those arrows mean. And this little swoopy thing on the yellowish orangey arrows, that means you're connecting your stitch halfway down the cliff. So this is, I like to think about this as you're at the top of the cliff and you're going to be making your stitches down here. So you're going to pull up a loop halfway down to sort of connect it midway so there isn't a big hole there basically. So you pull up a loop here and then in the first stitch down here. So that looks like this. We're just going to insert our hook halfway down that cliff, pull up a loop, and then we're going to insert our hook at the stitch at the bottom of the cliff, pull up a loop, yarn over, and pull through all 3. Then our next stitch is just the next stitch in the row here. So we're going to be continuing to work just through that back loop throughout this whole leaf piece. And you just make a regular single crochet there. And we're going to chain and turn, and we're going to work 5 stitches. Skip the turning chain, and then do 5 stitches through the back loop. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. That was row 9. So now we're going to chain and turn, and we're going to do the same thing. So we do our 5 stitches. 1, we skip that turning chain, do 5 single crochet stitches through the back loop still. 3, 4, 5. Then you get to that cliff, and then you need to connect your stitches to way down here. So you just take a little stitch somewhere in the middle. See, there's the height of our cliff. You just take a little stitch there, pull up a loop, and then you go way down here and go through that back loop, pull up a loop, and you yarn over and pull through all 3. And then we do 1 more single crochet while we're down here before we turn. Chain and turn, and then we just do 5 single crochets back up to the tip of the leaf. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Chain 1, turn, and then we do our 5 single crochets through the back loop. Sue has a good question. How much do you need for a tail to attach? I would leave a good long tail, like 12 inches, I would say at least. Depends how thorough you are with the sewing. We're going to pull up a loop here. So we made it to the edge of our cliff, and we're pulling up a little loop there, and then we're going to stitch down here at the stitch at the bottom. Same process. And then 1 more single crochet. And then we're going to finish up this leaf with 1 more row of single crochet into the next 5 stitches. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. All right, and then we can cut our yarn like that. So I like to start with a long beginning tail and leave a long ending tail, because you can always cut off, you know, what you don't need. So after you've created all of your motifs, you're going to have 3 small leaves, 1 large leaf, 2 small flowers, and 1 large flower. And you've blocked your cowl. Then you can arrange them on your cowl how you like. You can look at my picture for the example, like if I was trying to make, let me just pull this out. There's a pretty decent picture in here of it laid flat, so you can see where all the different pieces are. This is the longer leaf. The larger leaf is right here. So I'm gonna pin them all on so that they look just like my original sample. And this is the right side of my cowl showing right here. And you want to pin into your work. Make sure you're getting the mesh like that. And then once you pin them all onto the front, and if you're putting them, you know, someplace else, you want to put them in a different place, you might want to just try it on to check and see if, you know, you like the placement when it's on you. Because if you put anything too high up, it might get lost in the folds of the cowl. That's kind of why I wanted to just have a few at the bottom. All right, so you pin your pieces on. Let's see, as shown, there's one over here, kind of going this way. And try not to worry too much about your little ends. And let's see, there's another one over here, maybe a little closer like this. And you know, this is the kind of thing where you can have total creative control here. You can do these all in different colors. It would be lovely if the flowers were all different colors and there were different colors of green. You can do more or fewer. You know, it's really up to you. This is the point where you can, you know, exercise your creative control and do whatever you like. All right, so once you have your pieces pinned where you want them to be, and actually I should say you should probably block your flowers and leaves before you do this, because you're not gonna, it'd just be easier to sew them on if they're nice and crisp. So I can see which one I didn't block. It was this one. That was the one that I made just recently, just now. Okay, so you get them all pinned on where you want them to be. Then you're going to flip your cowl over like this, because it's a lot easier to sew these pieces on if you're looking at the back. So we're going to find, let's see, wherever your yarn tail comes out of your piece, you can pull it through your work like this. We're going to be sewing this rose on right here. Actually, I would recommend sewing the leaves on to make sure that your rose can be a little bit on top of your leaf. Let's do a leaf first. All right, so since this leaf sticks out off the edge just a little bit, we're just going to weave our end in till it gets to where the mesh is. All right, so this leaf is just hanging off my cowl just a little bit, which is totally fine. I kind of like it that way. So I'm just going to weave this in through the green until I get to the cowl itself. And then you're just going to be stitching your cowl to your leaf. Just grab a little bit. You don't need much, just little bits of your cowl as you're sewing. Little bits of your motifs especially. You don't want to sew through because you might be able to see that. I know we're using a matching color to the applique piece, but you still might be able to see like a puckery spot or some long strand or something like that if you're not careful. So I like to go along every place on the cowl that stitch is a little long. Let's back that up. Everywhere on the cowl, I like to stitch wherever there's mesh touching the leaf, I like to stitch through that. So I'll stitch through here, 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 all of these. And you don't have to do that, but I feel like it makes it lie a little bit flatter, and it just made it look a little bit more tidy. This is, you know, a little bit slow going, but you want it to look as best as you can. And really, it's compared to how much better it looks if you really take your time. It's so worth just slowing down and taking your time. You know, don't pull this too tight because you might pucker your flower or your leaf. So I'm just grabbing, you know, one little yarn strand there. I'm kind of doing like a whip stitch to attach them together. Just like that. All right, so if you guys have any more questions as I'm sewing this, please drop them in so that I can take a look before our event is over. Let me just check and see if there's anything that I missed. Oh, and Annie was wondering if you can rewatch this video at a later time. You can rewatch this video anytime. Yeah, it's just always going to be here for you to watch, so you can rewatch it. If you don't have time to do it now, you can always come back another day and check it out. All right. So I've got almost all of it attached. I think you guys get the idea. You just keep stitching. One thing, you know, when I was debating when I was sewing this on, you know, for the other cowl, it doesn't matter because it's all the same color, which I think looks lovely, and that's how I originally intended it. But then I started thinking, oh, you know, it'd be easier to see if I was doing this in 2 different colors. And then I thought, well, should I sew it on with the same color as the motif, or should I sew it on with the same color as the mesh? And I went with the mesh because, I went with the motif because I was worried that you'd be able to see a little nick here or there, a little tiny bit of the yarn peeking through if I used the contrasting yarn. So I would recommend doing it with the, you know, the yarn tails from your motifs, but I don't know, if you're the kind of person who can be super careful with your stitches and only keep them on the back of your motif, and you want to win a blue ribbon at your state fair, then I would recommend using the same color as the, not to say that you wouldn't win a blue ribbon if you did this otherwise, but you know, if you want to go way above and beyond, you could use the same color as the cowl to sew this, and then you wouldn't see these kind of ugly stitch lines on the back. But you know what? Who's going to be looking at the back of your cowl? So think about that too. Yeah, so you can use both of your yarn tails to weave in all of your pieces. And I think I have this one almost finished. I think I missed a little over here, that little strand, but that's okay. And then you would weave in. And then you just weave in your yarn tails. Just make sure that they don't show through the outside or through the right side of your work. And you can go back and forth in a couple of directions. That would be better than just doing it once like I did. But then you can see this leaf is already stitched on, and then you're going to continue with all the other pieces. You know, just flip your piece over, pull the yarn strand through wherever it comes out on your flower. Like one yarn tail will come out of the center of the flower, one yarn tail will come through the mesh somewhere near the outside of your flower, and you'll just stitch them all on there. And then if you want to, if you feel like it's necessary, you could block it again. But I didn't feel like I needed to do that on my green cowl. I felt like it was just fine. I blocked the pieces all separately and then stitched the flowers on, and they looked lovely. So I was very happy with how it looked. All right, it looks like I don't think there are any more questions. So I just want to thank you guys so much for joining me. This was really fun. And if you guys make this cowl, I hope you post pictures on social media, because I love to see what you guys are working on. It's very fun for me to see that kind of stuff. So I hope you enjoy this tutorial, and I'll see you next time for my next live. Bye.